But we back here again. Strength We Trust. Another episode in the books. Like I said, we building this brick by brick, person by person, community by community. We really good making this thing rock, and we're excited for another episode. Give you guys some another great information. Today's topic, we're going to be covering the concept of obesity, why it is where it's at in our country right now, tools that you guys can take to help mitigate that, whether it's people that you know, whether it's something that you're dealing with on your own in your own journey. And we just really want to take a deep dive into kind of how we got here, why we're here, and small steps that we can kind of put together to put you or others that you know on the right track to a better life. And
Yeah, and obesity is a first world issue. You don't see obesity in third world countries like that. Obesity is a luxury problem. Um, you find people who are homeless who are obese, and it's crazy.
right, it's like
It doesn't make sense.
how did you eat enough calories to get yourself to that place, and you have nothing to provide that to you?
Now, don't get me wrong. This is not like majority of homeless people, but you
Right.
can still see it
Hmm.
where because we have so many we
Resources.
have so much food at our disposal. Our ancestors, they searched long and hard to find food, but we live in a world now where I'm talking about the first world countries where we're just over consuming because of the access to so many just calories. um
Absolutely. And what it is now is, and it's very recent too. It's not like this is something that's been going on for hundreds of
and it's
years,
getting worse.
and it's getting progressively worse, right? So if you take a look back, I feel like we should kind of start back from like the last few decades and kind of build our way up into where we are now,
Sure.
right? So if you look back at like 50s, 60s, even into like the early 70s, right? We were a very, very active country in terms of like America here, right? Gym classes, people were outside a lot more. People were way more active, whether it's biking, running, riding, swimming, whatever the case may be. Our food, which we'll dive into, was even made differently,
Hmm.
right? That we weren't eating processed foods back then. Everything was more naturally and organically made. Like, and I've talked to this with even my own parents. And like when they went to supermarkets and stuff, there was times where like shelves were empty with certain products for a day or two, because if they weren't readily available, they weren't available.
Yeah.
And you compare that to now, you can go into any supermarket and any time, stuff's going to be there for you.
Hmm.
When is there a time where you go into any type of supermarket store where if you want something, you can find it?
Yeah, besides the pandemic. Pandemic was a rare,
Right. We're talking
yeah,
about a rare occasion
and
here.
that was like supply chain issues.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show you like how different it's changed over the last like 50 to 60 years, and how available food is.
Hmm.
And you talked about this and mentioned this in another podcast, is that we're sitting in like a comfort crisis
Hmm.
where everything that we want is available to us like that. And it wasn't like that just 50 to 60 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge reason why we've gotten to this point and why it's only going to get worse, because stuff is only becoming more available to you.
And then how do we get there? Like you were saying, population is going up, so we have manufacturers looking to find ways to provide the food that will allow people to consume whatever they want
More,
whenever they want, and their motivation is their bottom line.
100%.
And now they're coming up with different ways to market it, different
Hmm.
ways to get people to eat more. They spend a lot of money to create these hyper palatable foods that bypass our biological senses that tell us we're full,
Yep.
and we just fall for it.
And we keep eating it and we keep going back for more, and we don't stop. And it's crazy because I know I make a joke all the time, like I'm never full,
Mhm.
right? Like I'm always
There's
hungry.
a reason for that.
But there's a reason for that though. Right.
If you
Like,
eat real food, you will be full.
right.
I want you to try to sit and bust down like 4 potatoes. You know how hard that is?
Right. Or eat like a half a pound of some like boneless chicken. Like just try to eat that, just the chicken alone, and watch how quickly you get full.
Yeah. So, like even for my training, right? When I need to hit, because when I'm training like 5, 6 days a week hard on an intense program, and I need to hit my protein goal, which is like about a gram of protein per
Per
pound,
pound. Yep.
and that's a lot of protein. I don't know if you know what that looks like, but 200 grams of protein is not easy to consume.
Not at
So I
all.
have to drink some of those calories with whey protein shakes.
Mhm.
But to eat that is very difficult. Versus if I went to McDonald's, boy, I could bust down
A million
thousands of
cheeseburgers.
calories.
I could get
Thousands.
hundreds of fries, whatever you want, you can eat it all.
Yeah.
I mean, we usually do it, man.
But that's a weight loss hack. Eat
Exactly.
real food. That's why they keep pushing this. Eat real food, nutrient dense food, whole foods, non processed foods. And that will help limit your caloric intake because you can't stomach that much.
And that's tailored to what I was talking about before. Is like the 50s, 60s, and early 70s, they were eating real food
Mhm.
all the time, every day, every meal. Like, look at a lot of our parents and grandparents. They didn't start dealing with obesity and being overweight until way later in their life, when we were in like the early 2000s and up until now, where you see like our grandparents like started putting on weight.
Mhm.
But they were never like that. If you look at pictures of them,
It's funny you would even talk. I spoke talking to you earlier, and you were up at your mom's house, and you said she grows all her vegetables, and
yeah,
whenever you're there, you can feel how much.
I feel my stomach feels it like immediately,
Mhm.
like in a good way and a bad way. Like, my stomach's not used to having like fresh grown vegetables, like literally right from the garden. She takes them. We're talking about like tomatoes, cucumbers, lettuce, like all peppers, like everything is homegrown, and my stomach can feel it,
Mhm.
and I'm full,
Mhm.
like from vegetables. It's crazy how quickly that even happens. Like, we'll
And
have
and when people think they're getting fresh food from the grocery store, you got to look at where this is coming from. Some of this stuff is coming from Mexico. From It's not as fresh as you think it is. Sometimes it's the best fruits and vegetables are the frozen ones because those they preserve most of their nutrients because it's frozen
hmm
versus something that's they have to ship from thousands of miles away. So that's a an easy hack to get more nutrients out of those things is get some frozen fruits and vegetables.
right.
Like it's actually like beneficial for you to do so.
Absolutely, and I think that's a great first step that people can take nowadays. It's just setting themselves up better with real food. And I know that seems like a simple thing, but it's not simple for most people.
Hmm.
If you tell people like, go ahead and get yourself uh, some frozen protein, right? Get some chicken, get beef, whatever your nutritional likes or dislikes are. Go get like some frozen vegetables, frozen proteins, meal prep it on Sunday or Saturday, whatever the case may be. It doesn't that seems like an easy task to change, but like most people, because we're so tied into this quick get with food, that seems like too far fetched for most people. And it
Stop ordering.
yeah,
Stop ordering, stop eating out, because then that's going to affect the quality of the foods that you're eating. A lot of times when you go out, just because like protein costs so much, you're not going to get the amount of protein that you should be having. They're going to skip out on the protein. They're going to give you lots of carbs,
one
lots of
thousand
carbs.
percent, 1,000%. Like, I just had we did dinner last night,
Hmm.
and the salmon was like this big.
What's that doing for you?
That's doing nothing for me at
Listen,
all.
I
But
go to
the fries on the side, massive, tall crown of fries. And it just goes to show you, like, they're not going to feed you the way that we should be fed.
I go to Chipotle when I go to Chipotle and I get a triple portion of protein. I know it sounds crazy, but I get a triple portion of protein.
But
And
that's
even
what you're supposed to eat.
and look, I go even further to make sure I get extra protein. I don't tell them I'm getting a triple portion. I have them put the first scoop on and then I tell them after the fact. Because if you tell them first,
They're gonna
they're gonna
short it.
give you three small scoops.
They're gonna
But
short
I
it.
found a hack because I'm that serious about it.
Chipotle hack.
Call me and go hard. I don't care, but this is what you gotta do. This
Chipotle
is
hack,
literally what
baby.
you gotta do.
It's funny because like I do that too. Whenever because I'm a big Panda Express
Oh, what
guy.
is it? Is it Panda Express?
Panda
I
Express for
haven't
me.
tried that.
And well, I'm in Texas now, so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
got
yeah.
I
I'm in
got
New
I
York.
got I got different things I do now. So
Yeah.
like when I have my Panda Express hack where I go and I get a regular plate and then I pull up and I'm like, oh, I meant to ask you guys for a double order of that. I do it all the time. They can catch me, they can get me, it's fine.
But you gotta pay attention because they're gonna remember you and they're gonna catch on.
That's fine. Let them catch on. It's all good. It's all good. They can catch on. But the reason why I do that is the same thing you're talking about. Is if I tell them while I'm ordering the food, like, I want 2 orders of
They'll give
chicken.
you give
They're
you the
giving me these little boo boo the fool scoops, and I don't want any part of that. I gotta eat, and we're laughing about it, but it's like you guys have to prioritize your protein intake. We're not saying this to you as bodybuilders, power lifters. We are We are just strength training individuals who know how important protein is to your short-term health and your long-term health when it comes to maintaining muscle and building muscle.
Yeah, because and tying it back to what we were saying, when we're talking about this obesity crisis that we're living in, it's because of over consuming. That's a big part of it. Over consuming, of course, with lack of physical activity, but we'll get to that. But when we're
Right.
talking strictly about nutrition, it's about over consuming, and it's over consuming these hyper palatable foods. And how do you counteract that? It's by eating things that will keep you full, and protein keeps you satiated for much longer. So if you just focus on getting more protein in your daily nutrition, that will help you control some of these cravings. The cravings are not just because, that's just how you're wired. You just have this sweet tooth. No, it's because, you need energy and you're looking for quick energy. But if you feed your body with things that it needs, then those cravings start to go down. I promise you, try to have a protein shake and then go eat like a bag of chips or sweets. It's,
It's
it's going to be much harder. You're not going to eat as much as you normally would.
absolutely. You're not gonna be able to put that stuff down. And I think so food wise, that's a great first step. And then another thing too is like we don't have nearly enough water intake for most people. You have conversations, I have conversations with clients all the time, and they'll tell me they had like a bottle of water in the morning and then like they didn't touch water again until like 6, 7 o'clock at night.
Hmm.
And I'm like, how do you expect your digestive system to even process things effectively if you're not giving it fluids to do so? And a lot of times people are like they're just inflamed. They just have stuff, bile sitting in their stomach and they're bloated half the time. And people don't even realize, you gotta have to quote me, we have to check this. But I listened to another podcast where they said on average, Americans are carrying 10 to 20 pounds of just excess bile in their stomach because they're not able to process food effectively.
I never heard that. I'm going to look into that. I'm
Yeah.
going to look
I
into
think it's
that.
about 10 to 20 pounds on average. So imagine that, right? Where you have a lot of people who are like, I just want to lose 10 to 20 pounds. It's like, eat better.
Hmm.
We're not even talking about the physical activity aspect
Hmm.
yet. We're just talking about properly feeding your system, hydrating appropriately, resting appropriately. Just those 3 steps alone and giving your body the ability to pass through the food that it's eating effectively, you'll probably lose weight.
Hmm.
And we're not even talking about introducing any type of external exercise.
Yeah.
That's right. We're just talking about changing certain small habits. And, as people get older, like they deal with like constipation issues,
Hmm.
right? Like they're like, not to get too TMI, but people deal with this.
Hmm.
It's like even my own father, like as he's gotten older, he told me, man, like when he was sick for a while, he was telling me something like he didn't go to the bathroom for like 3 days.
Oh my God. Well, you know what?
But we're
It's
younger,
TMI. We're not going to talk about my bowel movements. But
right?
if I
But
go 3 days without going to the bathroom,
no, but
I'm
like
not going to feel
right,
comfortable.
but we can laugh about it, but like that's extremely unhealthy.
Hmm.
That's extremely unhealthy to know that. And a lot of people are dealing with those kind of issues
Hmm.
and it's not talked about enough because they just do quick fix pills and Peptos and they think that like the medicine is going to fix all that. And I'm like, no, you got to really dive in and pull the layers back of like why you are constipated.
Hmm.
Like, why is your body not effectively getting that food through? Just like you said, it's not real food and our body's not meant to eat that stuff. So if it's not going to process it effectively.
And let me tell you something. I told you, you should stop ordering. So, that means go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Some people just don't go grocery shopping at all. I'm lucky. My wife actually works in the food industry, so she is in grocery stores a lot. We have a kid now, so I'm doing a lot more grocery shopping than I did in the past. Because she'd give me smoke if I didn't admit that. I get a lot of smoke if I didn't admit that. But when you go to the grocery stores, stick to the outer aisles. All the things that you want, all the nutrient dense food are on the outer aisles.
Mhm.
You get lost in the middle, that's where everything is loaded with
Quick fix.
preservatives
Yep.
and the things that we don't want.
Mhm.
Stay to the outside, and that will help you a lot because, navigating, if you don't go grocery shopping a lot, it can feel overwhelming when you walk in there.
Yeah, there's so
But
many
stay to the
choices, yeah.
outside. That's where your fresh fruits and vegetables are. That's where your proteins are, and you'll be all right. Focus on like getting familiar with the outer parts of the grocery store, and that will help you when you're looking to figure out what foods that you want to have in your cupboard in your fridge.
Right. And I think, I mean, look, that's a lot to digest, no pun intended. But
That was good. That was good. I
uh
told you to start being a little funnier.
yeah,
You on it.
I got you. I got you. But I think that's a great place to start for people in terms of like food. But to kind of tie it all back now, we didn't even mention anything about physical activity.
No,
Look
no,
at the
no.
standard of physical activity now in comparison to what it was back when I started in those 50s, 60s, and 70s that I was mentioning, right? If you look at like phys ed classes and like sports and stuff of that nature, the participation was way higher.
It was mandatory.
It was mandatory.
Now
You were
people are
out
getting away with it.
people like you can go and you can have letters written and notes written that like I don't want to participate in phys ed. I
Which is
want to,
crazy.
which I think I'm going to be honest with you. I think that it's insane that you don't want to participate in something that's good for you. But that's a whole nother discussion.
So I'm gonna interject right there. I was actually listening to another podcast. We're podcasters, but
Yeah, we listening, man.
I listen to
Yeah,
podcasts, and this gentleman, Harvard evolutionary biologist, was talking about why we are so averse to exercise,
hmm
and it's because exercise is this new construct that didn't exist before. Before, we're talking like centuries before. We used to hunt for our food, so after you're spending all day hunting, you're not gonna go on a jog. It's crazy. No, you spend
no,
all day running around. But now, since we live a more sedentary lifestyle, we need to exercise. That's
hmm
why exercise became a thing. So it's no surprise that a lot of people just don't like to exercise. It doesn't come natural to us. But
absolutely,
we have to in this new world that we're living in. Some of us will love exercise, and you can learn to love movement. You may not love it as much as Mike and I do, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do more, because you need to understand, like, you need to do more, because if you're sitting on your butt all day and, eating the wrong things, your quality of life is going to go down pretty rapidly.
absolutely,
You could look around. I'm not telling you any new information, but I'm saying that to say, like, understanding that allowed me to have a little bit more empathy towards people who just don't like movement. I get it. I get it. And starting is hard, but you don't have to start with, trying to be
you're gonna
a
be like,
super high level
yeah,
athlete. No,
we're-
but just
yeah,
move more.
exactly,
1% better.
exactly.
Walking more.
hmm
Getting up, every 15, 20 minutes while if you're working at your desk. Go to the bathroom, go get a bottle of water. Just introducing little, movement snacks in your day, and that will move the needle forward.
hmm and that's all we really want people to do. We're not asking people who are uncomfortable with working out to throw in the kitchen sink and like overhaul everything that they're doing every day because that's gonna just lead to failure most of the time, right?
Yeah, no, no,
All
no.
we want to do is introduce one or two or three small things that are just going to kind of change your habit over time. And we talked about it, like looking at your food intake, right? Making sure you're getting enough protein in, make sure it's real protein, make sure you're getting enough fluids in, introducing a little bit of movement and exercise, just a little bit more each day. You don't have to overhaul everything that you're doing. Just those small three steps are going to help mitigate this world that we're in where obesity is at an all-time high, right? And people that are overweight is at an all-time high. Diseases are at an all-time high, and you can help mitigate a lot of those diseases and sicknesses that come along with life later on by just carrying more muscle, eating real food, and being more active.
Yeah, so like this first world problem of obesity that we're living in right now, we got to change that. We talked about the numbers in previous episodes. 30% of America are
More
morbidly
morbidly obese. Yep.
obese. 40% are obese, and then 70%
70%.
are overweight. We gotta do better, and that's why we're having these conversations. That's why we're having these dialogues, and it's not something that's unattainable. It's very doesn't matter what your income level is. Doesn't matter like how much time you have. You know, it will present different challenges, but it's very, very doable if you take the time to just figure out how. So hopefully, like, by listening to us, we'll give you some different ideas on how to start that journey. And you got to believe in yourself. You got to believe that you deserve this, because if you don't have that self talk with yourself, then none of this is going to happen. So
Yeah,
hopefully, you got something out of this. But I think that's a good place to wrap this
absolutely.
episode. But
Yeah,
just things to think about.
absolutely.
Start to change your relationship with food. Eat more real foods. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. We're gonna dig deeper into all of these topics. There's a lot of information that we want to share with you guys, but we want to, give you baby steps
Hmm.
and move more.
That's it, and just move more. And again, we're not asking you to overhaul. We just want you to take initiative. Like, have some love yourself, respect yourself. Like, take the necessary steps to not just better your life, but the people that are around you. And understand, we talked about this in previous episodes, man. The way you move is going to directly affect every single person that's in your circle. It'll never fail.
Mhm.
But yeah, man, we'll wrap this one up. We'll take a deep dive into it again soon. And yeah, excited to keep this thing going, man. You know how.
Make sure you hit that subscribe button.
Oh, absolutely.
You'll help us out tremendously. You'll help yourself out because we're doing this for you. We're gonna keep putting out this content, keep sharing this information. We're gonna have more guests coming on. That last conversation we had with Jason, the real Jumpman,
Yeah.
Jason Lakayao. I chopped his name in that episode. Oh my god, I can't believe it. But it was awesome, and I look forward to the people we're gonna have on in the future. But make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, drop some comments, pop in the DMs because we will respond. And let's just keep building. Let's keep getting stronger. And strength
Yeah,
we
man.
trust.
As strength we trust, man, on all platforms. Holla at us, keep this thing going, and we'll see you guys again soon.